other than Chad the Savage George for our first ever The Savage Hour podcast. We are live, brother, like Bruce Buffer. How you doing, Chad?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
Just hanging in there, brother. Trying to keep busy, man. Trying to keep
All we
busy.
can do, right? Like this is one of those times where it's really up to us to be busy now. Like we're always so focused on other people telling us how to be, where to be, what to do, and now it's like really about being on yourself and being accountable for yourself.
No longer can I go to CMMA on Tuesdays to do my boxing, Thursdays to do my kickboxing. I'm going mad over here, Chad.
Well, I mean, technically you can go there. I mean, you can sit in the parking lot and you can do whatever the hell you want out there. I mean, but just nobody else will be there.
Well, I mean, you are providing us with online classes.
Yeah.
Kind of tell me before we get into this, because I did want to discuss Tony Ferguson's mindset and, the guy freaking still cutting weight despite his fight being canceled and what kind of mettle that takes. But I just wanted to real quick, obviously catch up with you and see what are you doing to kind of adapt during this time. I've obviously seen some online classes and such. What else are you up to and what are you doing?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Nobody really knows the answers right now. So this is that time for us to really take a step back and say, okay, what are the problems that I can help get involved with? Like right now, we know that people need fitness, right? So they can't go to gyms. So what can we do to help people still maintain fitness? And realistically, let's be honest, like a big part of a reason why people go to gyms is not just to get fit, but it's also to get this in the right place. That's usually the cause of the reason why we're not in shape, why we're not happy, why we're not doing a lot of things that make us actually feel like we're progressing. And so if we can't do it at a gym, like how can we do it? So one of the things that we started doing is we're doing daily classes. We're doing classes for Jiu-Jitsu, boxing. We have our kids program. We have different platforms that we're doing that to. And then I'm staying very strong with my messages. I'm being very active with a lot of the promotion of just the get off your ass and go do it mentality, because we're at this stage right now where people are just waiting. They're waiting for things to reopen. And the reality is this, that we don't know what the landscape is going to look like when this passes. We don't know what things are going to be like. So we have to take charge and we have to get off our asses and start making moves.
You just posed that question or a related question on your Facebook, something along the lines of, what's it gonna look like after this pandemic at the gym, or in the fight game, right? In the fight industry, the fitness industry, the gym industry. What do you see, Chad? What do you foresee?
Well, I think initially things are going to be a lot slower pace than, what we're used to. We're used to being able to get to a gym like my gym personally, right? We could pack 40, 50 people in a room and it is the way that it is. But I think after this, things are going to change. I think that the ability to be able to have so many people in one space is not going to be that kind of an option. I think that we're going to be forced to make more space between the people. And I think in the long run, I actually think there is some value to this, because I'm sure many other gym owners and also people in the that frequent gyms can understand this, is that up until this, people in general don't care about hygiene. I mean, I'm going to say like I do, and a lot of people do, but when you go into the gyms, there are some dirty, gross people. They come in and their clothes reek, their equipment reek. They've got dirt under their fingernails. They don't shower. They smell. They come in sick. And I think what this is going to do is going to prevent all of that from happening further. So it's going to make gyms put these enforcements in place where it's like, hey, here's the protocol. Boom, 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 boom. You have to fall in line with this or you can't come in. It's that simple. So I think that's going to be a very big positive that comes out of this. Is that going to reduce some member numbers? Yeah, but I think the quality of what you're going to get is going to be way higher after this because of this institution that we're going to have to put into place.
How long do you see this, lasting before? I mean, obviously we don't have the answers, but how long do you see this lasting before we can go back to the gym and before there's some semblance of normalcy? Because I've never experienced anything like this.
Well, nobody has, right? And that's the problem. So everybody's up in arms and everybody's waiting for the government checks. Everybody's waiting for the relief programs, and the answers really aren't they don't know either, right? Because they don't know what's happening. So, we can't wait for these handouts. We got to start being more creative. This is where that entrepreneur, I truly believe that the level of entrepreneur that's going to be bred from this thing is going to be out of this world. There's going to be so many opportunities for people to actually create insane incomes. But you're going to have to be creative and you have to get with the times. So when this does open, and I think there's going to be forms of opening even as early as May, that if people are on the creative side of it, they're going to be able to benefit the most. I believe that possibly coming into June, we might be able to start seeing some type of opening as far as like group classes to some degree. But I think it'll still be some time after that before we can get into actual like maybe sparring sessions, jiu-jitsu classes. I think we're still a little ways away.
Do you think that, this is going to sort of force the evolution of businesses and their online capabilities? I mean, is that one of the silver linings we're looking at here?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the boom, online stuff. And that's where everything's been going anyways, right? If you think about it, now it's just being forced. Everything's been going online, from online Amazon shopping to fitness. Everything's online. I think that's going to be the main direction for a lot of stuff. But then you have things like jiu-jitsu, right? Like, how are you going to do jiu-jitsu online? It doesn't work. We've seen other academies do this, and it's frowned upon because for you to get good at jiu-jitsu, you need to practice. You need to be around people. You need to do it on people. You need to realize it works or it doesn't work. You need to get tapped out. You need to feel that feeling of getting tapped out. We did a whole episode on why it's important to do jiu-jitsu. It's not important to do jiu-jitsu online. It's important to do jiu-jitsu so you deal with the adversity that jiu-jitsu teaches you.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not going to be the same, but, I do see that as a silver lining. Chad, you seem so enthusiastic despite the fact that, your livelihood is that gym and it's closed down. You've got a baby coming. You've got an immense amount, and I hate to sort of, throw it out there in front of you like that again, but you've got an immense amount of things going on in your life right now, but you still seem so upbeat, enthusiastic. You're talking about this could be, one of the best times in history for entrepreneurs or to develop entrepreneurship. Where does that positivity come from, and how can you teach people that?
Well, it comes from the refusal to quit. That's really what it is, right? We're in a fight right now. That's what it is. And if I go against one of the best fighters in the world, it's not about I know the answer. It's I will find a way. And that's what that's what we're seeing right now is I will find a way. And that's why I get so motivated. Like, I refuse to wake up at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I still get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm still doing my routines. Even though there's less on my plate, I am still doing the things that keep me normal. I'm doing the things that keep me active. I'm doing the things that are allowing me to see the path ahead of me. So I stay active and I stay motivated because I know that I'm grinding like a motherfucker right now. But do I know that everything that I'm working on is going to pan out? No. I'm willing to bet 90% of it isn't. But that 10%, that 10%, that 5%, maybe that 3%, let's go as low as that 1%. If that 1% is what sets it off, then I'm winning.
Chad, you mentioned it's like you're fighting the best fighter in the world. And that's a great segue into what we're going to talk about next. Tony Ferguson was supposed to be fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov. Didn't happen. Khabib's outside the country. Then we had, Justin Gage step up in what was supposed to be a fight at the Tachi Palace right here in California.
I fought there.
You fought there.
Yeah.
Well, that sort of fell through. First off, before we get into the mindset of Tony Ferguson, I mean, what do you think of the UFC trying to get that event off at this time?
Well, I think they're trying to do anything they can, and that's what I'm talking about, is being creative. They're trying to do every option that other people aren't. Right now was about taking advantage of the openings that are there. Instead of looking at the closed doors, it's finding the ones that are open. If there's not ones that are open, you have to kick down doors to make one be open. And that's what they're doing. I mean, they're trying to lead the way, not just for martial art venues, but they're trying to lead the way for sports, period. And I know they're seeing the window of opportunity because WWE was given the green light in Florida. So they're seeing this and they're like, okay, we are going to make this stand of we are going to be an organization and we are going to provide entertainment and we are going to provide athletes a platform to make a living. And so they're doing everything they can and looking for any opportunity in any window. And that's what I was talking earlier. You might 99% of this shit might not even take off. But if you get that 1%, you are now the innovator.
So, the event ended up not going through because Mickey Mouse basically said no, and I say that jokingly. Disney, ESPN, they pulled the plug on it. Obviously, the UFC's on the ESPN Plus platform, and ESPN kind of tells them what to do, so that was a no-go. Dana's still looking into it. And despite the fight getting canceled, where Gage and Ferguson were supposed to be the main event, Ferguson went ahead and still made weight. Here's a guy, who first had, a horrible injury that, has ended people's careers, came back from it, still looked good, and now does something like this. Why, Chad? Why? Why do you think he's this way?
Because he's in the right headspace. I think what he did is phenomenal, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. If you have a plan, you execute. It doesn't matter the obstacles that are in front of you. He wanted to prove that he was here for a reason, and he was ready to fight no matter what the obstacle was. And he showed up and he made weight. And I think his stance on the fact that any fighter that was on that card should have done that, he's spot on. I mean, I'm in the middle of a fight camp challenge that I put in place for my academy. April 30th, I have to make weight. Yes, I understand I'm having a glass of whiskey right now, but that's besides the point. I'm having this, but I'm still maintaining everything that I'm doing. I'm running every day. I'm doing all the things that I need to fitness-wise so I can meet this deadline of April 30th for a weigh-in that I'm literally doing just so I can be an advocate of getting through this shit on the 30th. So for a guy like Tony Ferguson, yeah, he's a little nuts, but I think for him doing that and making weight as a championship weight, that is what a real champion does. And I think that is what a real person with a strong mind, like, hey, I'm in this shit for the long haul and I'm in this shit for the win. It's not just for the lights and the glamour. It's really about the way his mind works. And he had a goal. That was his goal. So he went out and did it. Fantastic. And I applaud him for it.
Obviously he's got a tremendous Jujitsu base. How do you think that influenced him in his mindset?
I don't know if the Jiu-Jitsu influenced the mindset. It might have. I don't know him, personally to where I can speak on that. But I can tell you where his mindset is as an athlete and as a winner, as a champion. And that's why he was able to push through and do that. It wasn't even a question. He didn't do that to get likes on Instagram. He did that because, listen, I set a fucking goal. And my goal was to weigh in this day and fight this day. Any fighter will tell you that the first fight is really the weigh-in, and then it's the fight. So if they took away the fight from him, he still has that first fight that he needs to accomplish, and he did.
How intimidating is it to go up against a guy like that, Chad?
I think listen, when you know you're up against somebody who genuinely has the mindset, it's going to make you second guess everything about yourself unless you truly have that same capability on the inside of where it's like the deepest, darkest shit inside you. So unless you have that, it's going to break you down. But if you do have that, that's what's going to make one of the most iconic fights that we've seen. And those are the ones that make history.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. We are live with Chad the Savage George on the Savage Hour podcast, our first live episode ever. Please hit that subscribe button below and the bell notification icon. And follow the Savage, man. This is the most motivational channel on YouTube. We're trying to blow this thing up, so show us some love and definitely hit that subscribe button. We're talking about Tony Ferguson still making weight. despite the fact that his fight was canceled and the kind of mindset that takes. And Chad, you mentioned you've also got this challenge going on at the school. Tell me a little bit about it.
So we started the CMMA Fight Camp. It's a 30-day fitness challenge. And really what it is that we are doing a 30-day program while we are under the weather from COVID. It is an opportunity for my athletes, my students, my staff, and myself to stay accountable during this time. Now, I understand that I don't have a fight coming up on April 30th, but I did set a goal. I set a goal to make a weight. I set a goal to make a weight class, and I'm going to, by all means, use this time while I'm down to do exactly that. Put myself in the mindset of a fight camp, and I have to make weight, and I got to do the things that I would typically do in a fight camp to make that weight class.
Why did you feel it necessary to do that to yourself and to your students at this time?
I think it's important to be able to use this time to keep accountability, because that's really what we have to do now. And I think that's one of the things that we lack in general as a society is our own accountability. We look to other people for things. We need reassurance from others. We need to find motivation. And when we have self-accountability, we start making things happen that we would have never done before. We start seeing opportunities around us. We start seeing strengths inside of us. And because keeping ourselves accountable really only reflects back on yourself, you are the only one that you can rely on for this. And yeah, of course, I'm posting daily fitness routines. I'm working out. The CMA Fitness Instagram is doing daily routines and workouts, and we're doing everything to help give tools. But you still need to do the work, and you need to do it on your own. And that's where self-success comes out of.
But why during the pandemic? Why is it you're doing that?
Well, because right now it's easy to create habits that lead to defeat, and it leads to depression, and it leads to a very, very dark direction. And if we are not doing things that are progressing us forward, we are automatically going backwards. And for the people that I am connected to, my community, my people, and myself, I refuse to let that happen. This is a fight that we are in together. And so if I'm doing it, I'm going to try to reach out, and I'm going to pull everybody along with me that wants to make this thing happen, because I just refuse to lay down. And if I can have a voice and people can feed off of that, then we are going to make some incredible things happen. But I refuse to lay down, and that's why I keep doing this, and that's why I'm doing this show.
Chad, I've been doing the challenge as much as I could on my own here at my house. But the discipline. I don't have the discipline.
Listen, sorry to cut you off, but that's the problem, right? We do not have self-discipline, and when we are locked in our houses and we are quarantined, like, self-discipline is the only thing we really have to make us do things. It is so easy when you don't have a routine, when you don't have a schedule, you don't have something else telling you what to do. It is so easy for you to have no discipline. And if you have no discipline, the only answer is failure. And that's what we cannot let happen. This is an opportunity for us to say, fuck that. I am going to learn how to get disciplined. I'm going to say that I can. I'm going to change all this stuff in here, and it's going to take work. But I'm going to start by doing one little thing a day. Maybe it's going for a jog. Yeah, we got to wear a mask now. So what? Maybe it's clean the way that I eat. Maybe it's something as simple as writing hashtag CMMA Fight Camp in my stories, my posts, because it keeps me disciplined. All we have to do is make one small change in our daily habit, and it can create every change that we need to have happen.
Chad, let's say, I'm a new guy. I've been sitting on the couch. My job's stressing me out. But obviously now I'm home. But let's say my job's stressing me out. I got kids. I don't have time. I've been coming up with excuses. But now, I've decided in the past week or so, I've made a decision. I've said, fuck it, I'm going to get up and work out. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start watching, some of these CMMA classes, learning how to box and do different things. Am I still, Chad, do I become an extremist or do I ease my way into this? How should I go about doing this, Chad?
Just do it. Don't have expectations. It'll work itself out. The key is to start. You start and then do as much as you can and then just keep that going. Because if you dwell on how you do it or what you should do or anything like that, it's never going to get started. The answer is to start. From there, you can put the pieces together.
So I can still, enjoy a glass of whiskey on the weekend. I can still, maybe have a dessert here and there. Or do I have to become an extremist and cut out everything from my diet and be a total psycho about it?
So when I write diet plans for the people that I work with, now I'm no nutritionist. I can get counseling, but what I do is this. I have people write out their daily food logs, right? And for me, when I write these things out, I don't tell you what you can and can't have. I want to look at this and I want you to write this shit down, because when you write down the fact that you had 5 pieces of cake today, 2 pizzas, 2 full pizzas, and a 6-pack of beer, and you have to relay that to me, do you think you're gonna feel some kind of way when you have to like tell somebody what you ate? Most likely. And if you do, then here's the thing. I'm gonna tell you, all right, let's do this. Let's have 2 pieces of cake. Let's have 1 pizza and maybe 1 beer. And we start moderating things. We're not changing everything all at once. I don't expect you to be extremists all at once. But we make small, micro changes at a time. And every time we make a change, then we improve one area. Then we make a change, we improve area. I talk about this all the time, that 1%. Let yourself improve 1%. And then everything starts changing, because think about this. If you change 1% every day for a whole year, that's a lot of fucking change. And by the time you end that year, you're going to be a different person than when you started.
Absolutely. Chad, let's circle back real quick to Tony Ferguson, Justin Gage. The fight obviously was canceled, but it looks like they're aiming for May. They're aiming for next month, maybe, to have have an event go forward. Have you heard about that?
No, I haven't heard that, but I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, let's say it does happen. I kind of wanted your insight on that, because obviously, as fight fans and somebody who's been in the fight game forever, your opinion is valuable. What do you think of that fight, Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gage?
I actually think Ferguson beats Gage. I think stylistically, Ferguson's a bad matchup for most guys. Do I think he's the best fighter in the world? I don't. I think he's a great fighter. I think he's very good. But I think stylistically, he's a terrible matchup for a lot of guys, because he's very unorthodox. He's got elite jiu-jitsu on a very crafty level, and he's got the mindset for it. So I think he's a hard guy to beat. And a guy like Gage, I don't think he's got the game to beat him. Gaethje's a phenomenal fighter. I think he's one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. But I just don't think, pedigree-wise, I don't think he's the right fight to beat Ferguson.
Do you think he's got a shot, though? What kind of shot do you give him in this fight?
It's MMA, so everybody has a shot. But I think that the jiu-jitsu style and the funk style that Ferguson brings, I just don't think he beats Ferguson. I just don't. I could be wrong, and I think it would be a fun fight, and maybe it goes to a decision. Maybe Ferguson gets knocked out. But if I were one to put money on that fight, I would actually go with Ferguson.
It's interesting you say Ferguson, could potentially get knocked out. If Justin Gage does win, I could see him winning in that fashion, hurting Ferguson, because I've seen Ferguson, get hurt a few times. Is that what you're seeing as well in this fight?
Well, absolutely. I think that's what everybody sees, right? You can't. You got to call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? And it's because Ferguson doesn't have like the sexiest striking. He's just really unorthodox, and his striking is not bad, but it's not on Gaethje's level. And Gaethje is just an absolute zombie on his feet. I don't think Ferguson's gonna hurt him on the feet. It's the ground is Ferguson's realm there, and the feet will be Gaethje. And I think that if Gaethje follows, even if Gaethje drops him and he follows him on the ground, I think it's going to give him a lot of problems. Just that funk style grappling that Ferguson brings to the table.
That's appreciated. What is it where I was just gonna ask you, did you just get up and take us for a refill?
I did. I did. I just stocked my whiskey collection this weekend. So I'm trying a couple different things, and I'm doing different pours. And right now I'm drinking the Templeton Rye.
I love it, brother. And for those of you that don't know, the Savage is quite the whiskey connoisseur. Definitely one of the few people I've ever done whiskey tasting with, which I thought was really entertaining. We need to get that going again soon, Chad.
Yeah, man. We might. You know what would be really cool if we did like a Skype call where or one of those Zoom rooms where we had everybody like ahead of time say what kind of whiskeys to buy, and everybody went and picked up their own whiskeys, and we did a multiple whiskey tasting via group conference call. That'd be pretty cool.
I would be way into that, and who knows where the conversation would go after a couple glasses of
I
whiskey.
think that would be dope, especially if it was a live feed. That would be something that where people could tune in and learn all kinds of shit about whiskey and people and drunk people with whiskey.
I love it. Let's say, Chad. Let's say, oh,
The wife's popping in.
Monica in the house.
That means the wife and baby Logan. Baby
There he
Logan's
is.
gonna be here in a
There
few
he
weeks.
In a few weeks, you said. My goodness, my goodness. Chad, let's say this fight goes off. Tony and Gage go at it. What happens with Habib? I mean, does he get the winner? Do you think Connor steps in? What do you think
No, I
goes
think
on with
Khabib gets
Habib?
winner, definitely. I think that's the only thing that makes sense. Connor is beaten. He lost his last two fights. What am I talking about?
Well, no, he stopped Cerrone, which is I think
Oh
the
yeah,
last
yeah, yeah,
person.
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. You're right. He did. But I don't think that should put him into title contention. I don't. It was Cerrone that was coming off of a loss.
Right, right. You're right. And Gagey, I guess the argument people might make though is Gagey beat Cerrone as well, but not in the same fashion
Yeah, but
Connor did.
yeah, but you can't do that. You can't do the MMA math shit. That doesn't work.
Why doesn't it work, Chad?
Because styles make fights, right? Like here's the thing. Anybody that's ever fought will tell you that you never know how you are going to perform until you're actually in there performing. Like it doesn't matter what kind of training camp you had. It doesn't matter how good you felt. You might even had a shitty camp, but you go in there and you felt great. So every time you go in there, you never know what your output's going to be like. And then you mix the styles together, and it makes a whole different dynamic. So I just don't buy into the whole MMA math thing. I think that styles do make fights, and the only way you're going to find out is when you get in there and fight.
Who do you think is the best in that division?
Man, it's hard because it's all about the matchups. I really do like Khabib. I'm a wrestler. I think Khabib is a phenomenal fighter. And yet I still think Ferguson beats Khabib. And yet I don't think Ferguson's the best in the world. I think he's incredible. I think he's awesome. I think stylistically, he just beats Gaethje and Khabib.
So you think Ferguson beats Habib, but you don't think he's the best in the world? I mean, is there somebody else that you kind of have in mind for that?
I have to look into it, but what's his name? Is really impressing me is what is it, Barbosa?
Yeah.
Not Barbosa. Man, Brazilian guy. What's his name?
Oliveira? Is it Oliveira?
Oliveira. Yes.
Yeah,
Oliveira?
the one that just did Kevin Lee in.
Yes, I think he could be the guy that beats Ferguson. But it's funny because I look at matchup wise, and here's why I say I don't think Ferguson's the best in the world, and yet he can beat Khabib. I think that Oliveira beats Ferguson, but I think Khabib beats Oliveira.
For sure. I mean, that's the crazy thing about the UFC, man. That's the great thing about the UFC and MMA. The best fight the best, and people don't get built up, against tomato cans like they do in boxing, and you could have a situation just like you're saying where one guy beats one, can't beat the other. Sort of like when Duran beat Leonard, and then Leonard could beat Hearns, and
Yeah, but I mean, listen, that's the way a lot of it is in MMA, and you know, it all depends if they're trying to protect somebody or not.
Chad. As far as your own career goes, I mean, we know you closed the door on MMA fighting. Do you have anything coming up as far as jujitsu or anything else that you're going to be continuing to do in your own career?
Well, I mean, of course, I had planned on doing a lot of competing this year in jiu-jitsu. I wanted to do a lot of big matches. I wanted to compete against some very good guys, but now we're at a hiatus with that. I had my submission league put on hold. We started up a grappling league, an inter-school league that was pretty amazing. That was about to really jump off. We had 6 different schools from the local area on board. That it was starting to launch, and we ran our first couple league matches with that. It was awesome, but then we had to put that on hold. So I think everybody in the jiu-jitsu community is just waiting to see what's going to happen, and I'm really curious to see what the landscape of competitive jiu-jitsu is going to look like after this, because it's definitely going to change, and we'll see what happens.
Do you think the sports, especially the combat sports, are taking a big hit because of this thing, or are going to take a big hit? Something that might affect it deep
They're
into the
getting
future?
destroyed right now. They're getting absolutely destroyed. Schools are getting shut down. People have nowhere to train. Leagues, events have no income. They can't put things on anymore. I mean, most shows that are putting on events, most promoters, I should say, that are putting on events, that is not their sole job. You know what I mean? Like, that's where they get their extra income, but most of them have other jobs, because putting on shows doesn't give you the annual income that you're making for the entire year. So, there's my wife's butt.
It's a good. It's a good break. It's a good break.
You hate me. You were the one that was back there.
I was interested to see what she was pulling out. I was interested to see what she was pulling out the oven. What are we working with here, wifey?
She's making dinner. So what I was saying is that most of the shows, the people that are putting on shows, they have jobs, and if they're getting laid off from jobs, they're not going to be putting on shows either when this thing comes back. So it's going to be crazy to see what shows are left standing, because everybody's being impacted by this.
Yeah, and even a lot of the shows, I mean, especially the ones that I've come across here, it's typically tied to a gym, right? And if the gym is not open, I mean, what the hell happens,
Well, that's exactly it, right? And so when this comes back, I mean, you got the mayor of Los Angeles and California saying that shows might not, like events, concerts, big gatherings may be postponed till 2021. I mean, how does that allow people to bounce back?
That's insane, man. Chad, how are we gonna deal with that, man, until 2021, man?
Let's focus on you. You run a great kickboxing show. I mean, how does that impact you? If no shows were allowed to happen in 2021 as a promoter?
It's horrific. It's horrific, man. I'm glad you asked that question. I actually discussed it yesterday with some of the people on the staff, and I even spoke to somebody from the commission today about it. And I said to myself, shit, I might have to, just to sort of keep fighters active and keep the promotion active. I might consider doing like a pay-per-view, like a small little pay-per-view through like a private pay-per-view on a site or something, and doing something out of a gym. And I mean, it's not going to generate anywhere near the revenue that regional promotions get from selling tickets, because regional promotions, I mean, let's face it, that's where we get our money from. But I mean, just for the sake of keeping the sport and the promotion, in the public sort of conversation, in their mind, in the eye, I might consider something like that if they're really not going to let us do anything till 2021.
I know, and that's pretty much where everybody's at right now, right?
I mean, especially when you're dealing with a commission, that's the other tricky part, right? I mean, your combat or your jiu-jitsu league, rather, I think you'll have a bit more leeway than I will having to deal with, CSAC and the IKF.
Yeah, but I don't think so. I think it's all about the social distancing now, right? So even the fact that my jiu-jitsu league doesn't have a commission, we still going to have to be regulated by whatever standards come out of this thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of bullshit, man, and it's crazy, man. It's crazy. I guess
it's absolutely crazy. Here's the craziest thing about it is that I understand that I think we're at what 17 million people on unemployment right now. Maybe it's actually gone up to that. It might be over 20 million people that are unemployed now in the United States alone. That's on unemployment. Now, let's put this into a full perspective. Myself included in this statement. All these small businesses, gyms, whatever it is, the people that are on unemployment are not those people. These are the people that have been laid off from jobs, that have been laid off from businesses. That's not including the small businesses. Because when you're self-employed, you are not eligible for the EDD for the unemployment. So now we've been shut down. So not only are we waiting for this to open back up so we can get back to operations, we are ineligible for funding to be able to pay our living off that. So, it's a crazy time for us because, for people that are waiting for shows to open back up, the people that are putting on those shows don't even have ways of just barely getting by.
I'm glad you brought up that the amount of people unemployed. I just Googled it real quick just to have some background information to kind of, highlight what you're saying there. I'm showing now it's up to 22 million as of a couple days ago, Chad. This entire country, I mean, maybe 300 million is our population. I mean, when you're talking about 22 million unemployed, we might be approaching 10% of the country.
Of the entire country.
It's madness, my
man.
Now,
here's the thing. That is just people that are employees of people.
Right.
That's not including the self-employed.
No, you're absolutely right about that, man. That's a scary thought. And, the article is talking about us headed towards like a depression-like economy. And,
we're guaranteed depression. The question is, how deep does it go, and do we go into a Great Depression? All right, you know what I mean? Like that's the question, right? Like we're recession guaranteed, depression. How deep does it go?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, the bell notification below. Join us. This is our first ever live Savage Hour podcast. But, we do put out an episode every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific. We've got someone in the chat, Kian Long Jade. Jade, thank you for joining. He says, who wins? Thank you. So he wants to know who wins, again, between Tony Ferguson and I believe Habib. Chad has answered that, but you can go ahead and answer him again if you'd like, Chad.
Well, are we talking about? I mean, we did talk about this earlier on the show, but are we talking about Ferguson and Khabib, or are we talking about Ferguson and Gage? But that was the question. I think actually Ferguson beats both of them, and that's just stylistically.
Yeah, and then so well, I guess that answers. So there you go, Kyung Long. Thank you for your question. Much appreciated. Chad, appreciate your time, man. We've been doing this now almost 40 minutes. Always a good time talking to you. Wish I was there sipping some whiskey. Would have been nice to sip some whiskey. I'll probably go downstairs and get me some whiskey now. But, anything you want to say to all of us kind of sitting at home, vegging out, going crazy?
Actually, I do. Support your small businesses. Because now is the time. It's the small businesses that run this country, and it's the small businesses that are being impacted the most. They're saying that we're getting the relief from the government and the funding. That's not true. There's actually underlying things that are going on with that, and other people are getting those money. There are businesses that are getting it, but it's not the ones that need it the most. Support your small businesses, support your community, and support those around you that need it the most, because now is the time that we have to come together as a community. Now is the time that we fight. And now is the time that we can really see what a true champion spirit and mindset really is.
Thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Savage Hour podcast, our first ever live episode with Chad the Savage George. You could follow him on Instagram right there. It's at the bottom of your screen, his Instagram handle, at Chad Savage George. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. One of the most motivational, inspiring, and knowledgeable people in the fight game, and articulate. All of it, baby. All of it. So thank you so much, Chad. Much appreciated, my man.
Absolutely.
And we'll be doing this hopefully once a week.
Let's do it.
So thanks for tuning in, guys. Until next time, what do you want to tell them, Chad? Tell them something sexy.
Well, live life as a champion.
There we go. See you guys. Thank you, Chad.